All right, folks, welcome back to the channel. A friend of mine had a battery that she's seen better days. It's a fairly new battery, but well, the balance plug got kind of chopped off of it. No fire, no smoke, but again, really can't use it anymore without the balance plug. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to show you guys how to safely replace this balance plug. Some of the things we're going to need is we're going to need obviously our replacement balance plug. A little bit of heat shrink, basic hand tools, multimeter. If you don't have one of these and you're in this hobby, you're doing it all wrong and you need to stop and go get one. And some solder and a soldering iron and a heat gun just to heat up the heat shrink. So first things first, we have all these random balance plug wires sticking out. We need to figure out where they go because they should go in sequence, going from ground, and then cell 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I know the color coding is kind of wrong. From a conventional sense, you would think that these would all be red and this one would be black to identify ground, but unfortunately, that's just not what we're working with. And I've got plenty of lipos that are color coded weird. Here's another one where it's actually coded the way you would think. This one's ground, the rest of the cells. And we can't really assume which wires any of these are. So we need to go in and figure out which wire we're dealing with when it comes to each one of these. So first things first, we have to figure out which one of these is ground. Ground is going to go on the left end of our plug. So what we're going to do is take your multimeter, turn it on, set it to voltage, DC. That's this symbol here, not this one, this one. Your meter may work differently. If your meter is different than mine, I assume you know how to use it since it's your meter. And what we need to do is I'm going to stick one lead in the ground end of the main discharge lead. Untangle myself here, and I'm going to very carefully and one at a time. Gotta get some material out here. Ooh, there's much wire there. Balance plug must have got pulled off pretty violently. I'm gonna go through and I'm just gonna check and see how many volts I get here. And that is 18. So that's not our ground wire. And we're gonna just go ahead and cap that off with a little bit of heat shrink while we're fiddling with the other wires. And that fits on there snug enough where I'm not worried about it slipping off. Let's try this one here. And look, fortunately, there's a little bit of plug still on there, and we might be able to salvage this instead of cutting this completely off. Let's see how many volts we have here. This one is 7.3. That's not the guy we're looking for. Just reuse this tape. And let's try this one here. I should probably be keeping track of these. Okay, and this one, I have 0 volts. Oop. This one I have 3.6. So that's definitely not our ground wire, but this is going to be our number 1 cell. And I'll explain more about that as we go along. But for now, I'm going to cover that up. So that's number one. Let's check this guy here. And I have no volts. So this wire here is our ground wire. So this is going to be the first wire we're going to tackle fixing. And all we're going to do is take our plug, snip a little bit off, and just to make this easier to work on, I'm going to go ahead and pull this connector apart. So now we have our two ends. And zoom this in a little bit for you. And we'll get some heat shrink. Put it over the wire. And let's go ahead and tin this up like we would any other wire. Alright, so go ahead and we'll tin this wire up here. And we'll tin up our replacement wire. My soldering iron is set at 850 degrees. And we'll just join the two. There we go. And there's our ground wire. Go ahead and heat shrink that down. And reinsert it into our connector. Give it a little tug, make sure it locks in. Okay, so there's ground. There's ground. And now what we're going to do is we're going to leave our probe in the ground under the battery. Like that. And now we need to figure out which is the first cell. And I went ahead and checked the voltage at the plug here. And I'm getting about 22 volts. So 22 divided by 6 is about 3 and some change. So what we're looking for is our first cell should be about 3 volts. This is 18. So that's not it. Check this one here. And 3.6. So this is cell number 1. Same as before. Go ahead and tin this wire up. And I want to try to keep everything about the same length. So I'm going to clip my wire here. Strip, solder. Don't forget heat shrink, because I always do that. And we'll go ahead and solder the two together. There we go. There's our first cell. So we've got ground, cell number 1, repaired. There we go. So that was about 3.6 volts. So the next one we're looking for should be about 7.3, which is what we have here. So each cell is going to incrementally increase by about 3.6 volts, give or take a few. So there we go, 3.79. So this is cell number 2. And as you can see on this one, the connector is actually in good shape. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to pop this guy out because I don't want to solder anymore and I have to. Even though I actually do secretly enjoy it. I guess it's not secret because I say it. And we'll get this out of here. There we go. That's out. And all we got to do is just look at the back side here and just kind of lift this tang just a hair to make sure it'll lock. And push it into the connector. Might need to give it a little squeeze. Kind of push it back into shape here. Oh, you know what? I just noticed there's a little bit of damage on the back side of that, on that wire just past the plug or past the connector. So I'm gonna get that out of there. Let's go ahead and fix this the right way. A little bit of solder. Yeah, I know there's somebody probably freaking out because I'm soldering on top of a battery, but just tell me how to live my life. There we go. Don't forget our heat shrink. And a quick little solder. Join the two pieces. Cell number 2. Done. Just gotta make sure you pull up that little tang to lock it back in place. All right, let's move on to the next cell. I'm kind of hoping these are all going in order here. Let's check this one. All right, yep, that's cell number 3. And this plug looks pretty messed up as well. So let's go ahead and trim that back a little bit farther just so we can stagger our heat shrink or our splicing. A little bit solder on there. And let's see, we can kind of figure out where to clip our wire at. And about, you know. There's that. A bit of heat shrink. And there we go. That's another cell, so that's 1, 2, 3 down, 3 to go. Let's see, so we were at 11 volts, so we should be looking at about 14 on the next one. Yep, 14.7. And this connector looks like it might actually be salvageable, so. And this meter times out after a little while. There we go. That was 14. So we should be about 20 volts next. I think that's going to be this one here. Yeah, pretty close. All right, so we were at 18 volts. And this one should be 22. And that one looks like an absolute mess. So we'll go ahead and get some fresh wire. Trim, strip, solder, rinse and repeat. Yeah, you know, I could go and be way tidier about how I'm laying the wires out and trimming them to length and all that stuff, but the reality of it is it's a battery. It's probably going to go out and get chopped off again or smashed on the ground, and I'm not super concerned about it. I just want it to be usable. It's really my end goal here. Just want to be able to use it. And I think when we're done here, it certainly will be usable. There we go. And nice little bit of heat shrink. There we go. All right, so now if we go from end to end, we should have nothing, because that's ground. And then it should progressively get larger in voltage. So that's cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, cell 4, cell 5, and cell 6. And that is the quick and dirty of how you go about repairing a battery. And just to double check, hook up my ISDT charger or the cell checker, plug her in, and there you go. It's reading all 6 volts, or all 6 cells. And last thing we can do is we could tidy this up a little bit. Just give it a wrap and a little bit of electrical tape. Now I know there's a bunch of people out there that are saying, oh, just throw it away and get a new battery. Nah, man, screw that. That's just being wasteful. There's a lot of chemicals in these batteries. There's a lot of things that go into this, that just throwing it away because of some wires that were damaged is just financially and environmentally irresponsible. Why throw it away when it could be repaired? Now, if those wires were messed up and the cells were all smashed in, I would say, yeah, probably not worth it. But, I mean, it ain't as good as new, but it's damn near good enough. Good enough for us, good enough for what we do, good enough for chucking it into the ground as fast as we're going to. Anyways, that's it. That's how you repair a battery. This should apply to 4S, 6S, 3S, doesn't really matter. They're all going to kind of work out exactly the same as far as how to repair the wires and rewire the cells. Look in the description of the video. I'll put a link to an Amazon listing for these balance plug repair parts, and the rest is all just stuff you should have laying around anyways. All right, folks. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got for today. If you like what I'm doing here, please like, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below. Let me know if you guys do anything different for repairing these, or if you've had any luck repairing them. Let me know if you've had any horror stories repairing them. I mean, I'm sure there's some lipo fires out there from doing stuff like this, but luckily this guy was definitely salvageable. Anyways, that's all I got for today. Catch you next time.